Hey guys, Engineer Wannabe here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Laurier Neptune. This, I believe, is the second series. It is a value dive watch with a Seiko NH35 movement. So we're going to be taking a look at this watch. Let's get started with the dimensions here. The diameter, according to my calipers, I get around 38.5. I think it's rated or described as a 39 millimeter watch. Thickness here is 15 millimeters. Lug to lug, I get 48. So those are some very interesting dimensions. The lug to lug is really long for a 38.5 millimeter watch. And it is quite thick, but that usually is the case with an NH35. This, of course, is water resistant to 200 meters, as you can see on the dial. The crystal is an acrylic crystal, so it does gather scuffs up over time. As you can see, there's a few there when I hold it to the harsh light. So it does gather scuffs. The bezel is an aluminum bezel, beautiful blue, and of course the dial is a glossy blue as well. The dial indices are printed on. Everything is it's a fully printed dial. The hands there are high polished. Seconds hand has a nice little counterbalance there. The lume on this watch is actually quite astounding. It has an ice blue style lume. Not sure exactly what compound it might be, but it is very strong and it does last through the night. The lume that is on the tip of the hour hand here, the hour hand tends to die out a little quicker right there, the lume there, and it does become difficult to differentiate between the hour hand and the minute hand at that point. One solution to that would have been to make the hour hand a bit thicker overall. Maybe have a thicker arrowhead or a bigger arrowhead, kind of like the Seamaster's Seamaster 300 from the past. And of course the second hand is loomed as well. So this is a nice watch, but as the dimensions would suggest, this wears pretty big. It actually wears even bigger than the 48 millimeter lug to lug dimension would suggest. I think it's because of the thickness, but it does wear big, and I would suggest if you want to wear it comfortably, you should probably have a wrist slightly above my wrist if you want to wear it comfortably on the bracelet. One of the reasons is this bracelet has a very interesting bracelet here. It's reminiscent of the Seamaster 300 from or a vintage Seamaster 300. And it's a very interesting bracelet, very beautifully designed. The links, the end links here are solid, but it's been almost shaped to look like it's folded. It looks like a folded end link, especially when I first take a glance at it. So it looks very vintage, but then you realize the end links are solid, and it's a very hefty piece too, very finely built. You feel quality when you hold it, and that's great for a $500 $400 watch. Really quite impressive. So as I was mentioning, the bracelet here does not play too well with smaller wrists. Even though it does have that cut-in pivot point instead of a cutting-out pivot point, when it is going around the wrist, this bulge is pretty prominent. So if you have, say, a 6 1/4 inch wrist, I don't really enjoy taking a look at that. It does look a bit better if it did have a bit of a wrist to go around. So a 6 1/2 inch wrist might be able to pull the bracelet off a bit better. That said, This watch looks really good on all kinds of straps. It looks good on mesh straps. It looks good on NATO straps. I've had a lot of fun with NATO straps on this watch. Because you may think because of the thickness that a NATO strap might not work too well on this watch, but it actually does, because for some reason the weight of the watch is towards the bottom, and so it's not top heavy, and so it wears really comfortably on a NATO strap, and especially if you have a single pass NATO, it works really well with leather straps. So the only issue I've had as a person with a smaller wrist is this bracelet here. So here is the watch on my wrist, and as I mentioned, I'm not too fond of seeing that weird protrusion. It's a weird disconnect to me, and not too keen on that. So I don't. As much as I love the look of the bracelet, the flat surfaces which reflect light in multiple different angles. If I had a bigger wrist, I may enjoy this bracelet a whole lot more, because this would point outwards. So the bezel here is 120 click. If you can hear the ratcheting mechanism there, it sounds pretty good. It is a little hard to grip though. It's a coin edge bezel, kind of a fine serration, so it's a little harder to grip. Now, I mentioned a bit earlier about how this watch reminds me of the Seamaster 300, the vintage Seamaster 300, the 50s, 60s version. Especially the bracelet has quite a similar look to it, and so does the case. I don't have a vintage Seamaster, but I do have a Speedmaster FOIS, First Omega in Space, which I believe had a similar, if not, well, a very similar case to that Speedmaster. So you can see a bit of how the bevel tries to, the beveled edge here, even though it does not get exaggerated as it does in the Speedmaster here. It is quite similar, and it comes down to the edge of this lug, high polished, has that angular sort of finish. Of course, the Speedmaster is way more intricate, as it should be, because it is more expensive by a factor of 10. But a really interesting replication here of that old style case. So the finishing is really good on this watch. And that is something to be appreciated. So if you do appreciate the Speedmasters, the 50s and 60s, or the Seamasters, and you want a budget option, if you want a beater watch that kind of gives you the same feeling, this would be a great option. Or even if you're looking for something a bit more affordable, this really is a great option. So the movement on this guy I mentioned earlier was the NH35. Is expected to run at, I believe, -20 +40, or something along those lines. My model here runs at around -8, -7, -8 seconds a day, so not too bad at all for a budget watch. It could be better, and you might get a better example than the one I have here. But it's a standard Seiko movement. It's expected to run for forever, really, without needing a service. If you do need a service, I would assume you would just replace the movement. Fairly cheap movement, affordable movement, and reliable one. So no qualms about that. And it is a great movement to have on a beater watch. Not that this should be considered only a beater watch. It's a very, very nice watch in general. So anyway, this has been a fairly quick review of the Laurier Neptune. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to answer it for you guys. And I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.